It's been about 3 weeks since I've worked on a boat. I've missed it. In the last episode, I was working on the portholes. In fact, we finished the last episode with a dry fit of the portholes. Following this, I glued the porthole flanges on the insides of the portholes with some thickened epoxy resin. And I used some nails to ensure that the holes were lined up. As the epoxy resin started to set, I was able to remove these nails while it was still easy to do so, and then once it had set completely, I went round with a drill and opened up the holes again where the epoxy resin had bunged them up. Next, I used some 3M marine sealant to stick the acrylic discs in place. I pushed it in to ensure there was a good seal, and then put more sealant on the outside for the brass discs. I put plenty on here and was sure to go over the bolt holes. Then I put the brass discs in place and pushed all the bolts through from the outside. Before cleaning off the excess sealant. On the inside I fitted the washers and the dome nuts. It took quite a bit of cleaning up, but I'd rather have too much sealant than not enough, just to make sure that there's a good seal around the portholes. Then I was able to turn my attention to the tabernacle. When I put this in place, I noticed the angle at the base of the tabernacle didn't match the angle of the foredeck, so I needed to rectify this. And I used a sander to round off the base of the tabernacle to match the fillet at the back of the foredeck. Before drilling holes for the bolts which would attach the tabernacle to the bulkhead. I also drilled some countersink holes to accommodate the heads of the tabernacle bolts so they wouldn't be in the way of the mast once it's inside the tabernacle. Then it was time to fit the gallows. I put this in place to mark the positions for the poles. Then the weather started to look a bit dodgy, so I covered up the boat quickly and went into the workshop. I had to improvise to get the gallows lined up with the drill press. Meanwhile, the heavens opened. So I set about drilling the holes for the poles in the gallows. and while I was at it I ground one side off the pole mounts. By this time the weather had improved, so I went back outside, took the cover off the boat and drilled the holes for the poles to go through the side decks. And here's the boat with her tabernacle and gallows in place.